Hello creeps, Andy here, and today I wanted to talk about disturbing, twisted, strange, weird childhood books. So the other day I was looking at my bookshelf and I came across either books that I read as a child or books that are made specifically for children, and I thought this might be an interesting video to make, so here we are today. These, at the very least, I'm sure gave us nightmares as children, and in fact are probably the reason why I had very strange dreams all week long. So before we start, let me know, one, the books that gave you nightmares as a kid, and two, let me know if you guys want me to do another part to this, because there are so many books that I could talk about. I just picked a few so that I wouldn't be rambling on for 30 minutes, but there are so many other books I could talk about. So let me grab the books and let's get started. Okay, so the first book that I wanted to talk about is a personal favorite of mine. When I was a child, I loved Where the Sidewalk Ends by Shel Silverstein. This book, as you can tell, got read quite a bit from when I was little. This was one of my favorite books growing up. That being said, some weird stuff goes down in there. So let's just take a look at a few of the poems that I think could potentially frighten a child beyond repair. So this one is called The Googies Are Coming. Okay, first of all, it has this lovely picture of a child kidnapping children in a sack. And I'm just gonna read you bits and pieces of this one. But the first lines are, "The Googies are coming, the old people say, to buy little children and take them away. The Googies are coming, and maybe tonight, to buy little children and lock them up tight." And then it goes on to break down the price of each child on the child kidnapping and selling market. I don't understand how these things passed. I mean, I'm glad they did because I really enjoyed reading them, but you know, like stuff like this just couldn't come out nowadays. And again, this was published in '74, I believe. The next one is just called Enter the Deserted House. At first, it's just a normal poem that talks about a spooky house, you know, and you're just like, oh, okay, it's just a typical haunted house story. It talks about crickets in the yard and how there's no ceiling and how the floors are made of flowers and how there's bats and owls dwelling within. Then it takes a turn at the end. The last two lines are, "And my child, I thought you knew, I dwell here, and so do you." Are you serious? I read this as a child, and I probably thought, oh cool, I'm a ghost. I'm a dead little girl ghost. Thanks, Shel Silverstein, for the nightmares. I don't hate it. And then this one, it's not necessarily creepy, it's just odd. It's called Me Stew. Well, it says, "I have nothing to put in my stew, you see, not a bone or a bean or a black-eyed pea, so I'll just climb in the pot to see if I can make a stew out of me." All right? "In the boiling water, I won't scream a bit. I'll sing while I simmer. I'll smile while I'm stewing. I'll taste myself often to see how I'm doing. So bring out your stew bowls, you gobblers and snackers. Farewell, and I hope you enjoy me with crackers." You know, just a fun old tale of cannibalism. Like, at the root, these are very strange things for children to read, but they're written in such a fun way that I completely understand why kids love this. Do kids still read this today? I'm not sure. I certainly hope so. And then this one's called Dreadful, and it's about eating children. Yeah. It says, "Someone ate the baby. It's rather hard to say. Someone ate the baby. She won't be out to play." I'm just gonna skip around a little. You don't need the whole poem to understand the meaning. And it just says, "Someone ate the baby. It's absolutely clear. Someone ate the baby because the baby isn't here. Someone ate the baby. What a frightful thing to eat. Someone ate the baby, though she wasn't very sweet." And it says, "It was a heartless thing to do. The policemen haven't got a clue. I simply cannot imagine who would go and burp, eat the baby." Very odd things in here, but I gotta tell you, I love this book. I loved it as a kid. I still love it now. I think it's such a fantastic, fun way to use your imagination as a child, and even as an adult. Like, I had so much fun reading through this. Those were the creepiest things I found in here. The interesting thing about this book in particular is that there are poems that are just odd and weird and creepy and fun, but then there's some poems that really have a lot of sustenance behind it. So I don't know, I love this. I think I always will. Is it a story for children? Yeah, for sure. Yes, they're creepy and it's weird for kids to, you know, read about cannibalism and eating babies and whatnot, but at the end of the day, that's all I read growing up, and I turned out okay. Okay, next up, we gotta talk James and the Giant Peach. Oh my goodness, do we have to talk James and the Giant Peach. So first of all, let me tell you that a video will be coming out soon only talking about this book, like an unnecessarily deep analysis of James and the Giant Peach, because I got sucked into this and perhaps came up with a weird, dark, twisted theory that I'm very, very excited to share with you. So that will be out soon. But let's talk about why I think this book is just like, it's a horror book and for sure caused nightmares. So one, the pictures. First, let's just pop up a picture of old James here, okay? There he is, for sure possessed, or a soulless child, or I don't know, Michael Myers? Did they use Captain Kirk's face? Does this not look like Michael Myers to you? This is terrifying, but I think this one's the worst. And then the one at the end, it looks like he's, I don't know, ruling the underworld. So the picture is one, terrifying. Like if you read this as a kid, you will have nightmares. There's no way around looking at that possessed child and thinking that this is a fun, cute story. There's that. And then let's talk about the story itself. Okay, so James and the Giant Peach, obviously he is a kid that's neglected by his aunts. His mom and dad passed away. By the way, in the book, yeah, eaten by a rhinoceros. In the movie, I don't think that happened. I think it was like a storm with a rhino cloud that took them away or something. It was a lot more vague than being eaten alive. And then let's talk about this. It says here, but in the long run, it was far nastier for James than it was for them. Their troubles were all over in a jiffy. They were dead and gone in 30 seconds flat. Poor James, on the other hand, was still very much alive. And all at once, he found himself alone and frightened in a vast, unfriendly world. Okay, a little dark, a little dark. The other creepy things that happen in this book, let's get into that. A peach ends up growing very large, he ends up getting inside of it, and the peach rolls away. In the movie, his aunts chase after him. However, in the book, the peach rolls them over and kills them, murdered via peach. And not only that, but they end up singing a song about how delighted they are that the peach killed the women. It gets a little weird. He goes on like this really fun adventure with a bunch of insects. It all ends up happy at the end and everything's, you know, saved. Or so you may think. Stay tuned for my next video because I want to go into, like I said, an unnecessary deep dive of this story. But yeah, a lot darker than the movie. There's some weird dark stuff. Like at one point, James says, I'm going to use you as the worm. I'm going to use you as a lure to lure the seagulls down so we can catch them. He's thinking like, you know, and then we'll pull you back in and you'll be good. And the worm's like, I don't really want to die. And everyone else is like, it's okay, you'll be a martyr. I'll respect you if you give your life for us. It's a dark story is what I'm trying to tell you. It's weird. It's fun. I really enjoyed reading this. I had such a blast and I'm very excited for the next video to talk about that guy. But let's talk about something that's a little bit more on the nose. Obviously, this is scary. Scary stories to tell in the dark. Now, this is so creepy for children to read. So, first of all, I didn't know that this is collected from folklore. And then it's transformed into stories that people can read. So like at the end, you can see where the stories came from, which I thought was really cool. But there's some creepy stuff in here. One, the pictures. The pictures are pretty creepy, but let's just read a few things that are creepy. I'm not gonna read obviously like the full things, but I'll give you an example. So this one is Cold as Clay, and it says, a farmer had a daughter for whom he cared more than anything on earth. She fell in love with a farmhand named Jim, but the farmer did not think that Jim was good enough for his daughter. To keep them apart, he sent her away with her uncle to the other side of the country. So she moves away from this guy. So weeks later, there was a knock on the door, and when the girl opened it, Jim was standing there. And he said, your father asked me to get you. I came on my best horse. And she says, is there anything wrong? And he says, I don't know. And then he told her, it aches something terrible. So then they traveled the few hours back to the farm. The girl quickly dismounted and knocked on the door. Her father was startled to see her. And she says, didn't you send for me? No, I didn't. And then she turned to Jim, but he was gone. And it says, terrified, her father told her the truth about Jim's death. Then quickly he went to see Jim's parents. They decided to open the grave. The corpse was still in the coffin, but around its head, they found the girl's handkerchief. This one was terrifying. Just this picture is so creepy. It's enough to give me nightmares for sure. So this was about a person staying in a haunted house. It says the haunt came right across the room, straight up to him and took hold of his coat. It was a young woman about 20 years old. Here's where it gets creepy. Her hair was torn and tangled. The flesh was dripping off of her face so he could see the bones and part of her teeth. She had no eyeballs, but there was sort of blue light way back in her eye sockets, and she had no nose to her face. This one I thought was creepy. It's called the Hearse Song, and it says, don't you ever laugh as the hearse goes by, for you may be the next to die. They wrap you up in a big white sheet from your head down to your feet. They put you in a big black box and cover you up with dirt and rocks. All goes well for about a week. Then your coffin begins to leak. The worms crawl in, the worms crawl out. The worms play, actually I don't know what this word is. Sorry to break up the flow of the poem here, but I have no idea what this word is.
Pinnacle.
Pinnacle. It's a game depending on luck. The worms play pinochle on your snout. They'll eat your eyes, they'll eat your nose, they'll eat the jelly between your toes. A big green worm with rolling eyes crawls into your stomach and out your eyes. Your stomach turns a slimy green, and pus pours out like whipping cream. You spread it on a slice of bread, and that's what you eat when you are dead. That is such a good song. But all of these stories are so fun. Like here's one, The Ghost with the Bloody Fingers. Just creepy, fun little stories. Some of them also have indications of where you're supposed to scream and scare people. And then there's also a fun little game in here, which I do intend to play if I ever have children, to scare the living daylights out of them. So the cycle of terror just continues on, I suppose. I really enjoyed reading this guy. This was such a blast. So yeah, these are the books that I picked out for terrifying childhood books. Some of them obviously intended to be creepy, others not intended to be creepy, but are still terrifying. So let me know what you guys think about these, and let me know which rounds of books I should do next, because I think that these are fun videos to just go in and read some old classic, creepy, or even not creepy books. It seems like a lot of these stranger books were published earlier on and aren't books that came out by any means recently. This guy was published in, I think it was published in 81. And then James and the Giant Peach was published in the 60s, I believe, 61. And then, like I said, this guy was published in 74, I believe. Is the era of creepy childhood books slowly dying out, or do you think that's something that will continue to grow? Because I don't really find books like these when I go to the used bookstore and I look for more recent books. I mean, they do have these there, but they're all older publications, and it seems like the newer stuff isn't as odd and creepy and strange. So let me know what books I should do next. Let me know if you guys enjoy videos like this, and I will see you next time with another horror video, because you better believe I can turn anything into a horror video, even if it's childhood rhyming poetry from Shel Silverstein. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you next time. Bye, guys.